all due respect, the popular myth and legend is that somehow the super city's all Rodney Hyde's fault.
You said the initiative was from central government.
No, I said the initiative was from business.
From business.
Big business. They are the ones that put the pressure on. And what happened was, as someone who literally opposed the super city from day one after getting a media tip-off, myself and my friend Lisa Prager, another community public watchdog, we gate crashed a meeting at the Auckland Town Hall. And what happened was, it was the Auckland Mayoral Forum, which is not a creature of statute, it's just an arbitrary made-up group, and the four then city council mayors were trying to act against the ARC, might be in the ARC, to get rid of the Auckland Regional Council in order to help push for the super city. And Lisa and I, we disrupted the meeting and basically said, you have no lawful right to do this, because at that stage, under the Local Government Act section 24, there was a proper process for any amalgamation procedure, and it's supposed to be a binding poll of citizens to decide on whether or not they wanted amalgamation. And so they're trying to railroad it through. What happened was a petitioned Parliament. Peter Sharples presented the petition calling for there to be no rushing through of any amalgamation process until the public had been properly consulted. So I think, and what happened was the Greens and the Māori Party refused to support Labour in railroading it through. What then happened was it got slowed down for 18 months, where we went through this Royal Commission, where the Royal Commissioners were appointed by Labour, which included David Shand, ex-World Bank, ex-IMF, God knows what. But the reality was that the most important recommendation that came out of the Royal Commission was the council-controlled organisational model, whereby millions of dollars of rates would go to these council-controlled organisations, which had never been subject to any form of cost-benefit analysis. I've done work here no one else has done, but the reality was that council-controlled organisations, CCOs, had never been subject to any cost-benefit analysis by the Office of the Auditor-General, Department of Internal Affairs, by any of the 8 previous councils, and most alarming, Treasury. And I have got the letterheads and the letters of those organisations which will confirm that. So the concept that you would put 75% of the Auckland regional citizens and ratepayers' money into an untested model is pretty unbelievable, but that's exactly what happened. The council-controlled organisational model was the organisational mechanism for this corporate coup, corrupt corporate coup that happened. That's the reality of it. And when Rodney Hyde, as the Minister of Local Government, appointed the now deceased Mark Ford to head the Auckland Transition Agency, there's gate crashed that meeting as well, 2 of us, and there's a quite a famous photo of me with just a little cloth banner, which had taken me about 5 minutes to make, with a big black felt tip pen, standing behind Mark Ford, corrupt corporate coup, and another one saying a rates revolt will stop the super city. So when Rodney Hyde had a press conference, I went ballistic for about 6 minutes. It made national TV, but having a go, it's all about timing and focus. And so that was making a huge fuss about the super city before it started, but there was very few other people even got it. The so-called activists, with all due respect, didn't really get it at the time. There was bugger all mainstream media interest, unsurprisingly, basically corporate media. This was a corporate agenda. And so what happened was, without a binding vote of Auckland citizen and ratepayers through central government, the super city was railroaded through and was forced upon us. And part of the super city legislation involved the one big Auckland water company, Watercare, becoming that giant, being set up as a giant Metro Water, which is something the Wood Press Group, which I'm a media spokesperson for, had been fighting for years. And again, no vote, no consultation as such. It was railroaded through because Parliament is sovereign, and that's what happened. Interesting that there, as I said, there seems to be it's now percolated into this, oh, it was all Rodney Hyde's fault. Well, let's get it right. The fact of the matter is that when it came to a vote in Parliament, Rodney Hyde was one vote, and it was national that, that basically pushed it through, and it was very convenient for them to have Rodney Hyde as the Minister for Local Government, because effectively he helped to act as a flat catcher.
Scapegoat.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but I mean, yeah. So I mean, but that's the reality. And yeah. So like I say, there's been two lots of amalgamations that have been forced upon the public. The first was in the late 1980s when they went from the Auckland Regional Authority, which was the regional model. The old ARA, Auckland Regional Authority, used to build roads, dams, and bridges, and ran the public transport. At a local level, we had local borough councils. You paid your rates, you got your services. That model was not broken. Rogernomics wrecked Auckland. Rogernomics wrecked Auckland because this public is bad, private is good mantra had percolated into local government, and these people, the dollar signs flashed in their eyes, and they just realised, oh, we can make a lot of money out of this by taking over these public services that used to be provided in-house. I mean, people have made a fortune. And it's like citizens and ratepayers have turned into this cross between a giant cash cow and an ATM machine. Yeah, all pay, bugger all say. What is also quite fascinating is that when you look at transparency and accountability, under this Auckland's super city super rip-off, if you actually bother to look at your rates assessment notices, what you will find is, this is what we are told about rates activities. The rates you pay help fund new projects and pay for the services that benefit you and the region. That is it. Now, once upon a time, back in the Auckland City Council days, you used to get a pie chart. Well, like I said, I'm interested in the ingredients in the pie. But now we don't get a pie chart. We just get this one piddly sentence. But the other thing is, now this is fascinating because I'm going to test this in court very soon. The issue of the statutory requirement for rates assessment notices is set out in section 45 of the Local Government Rating Act, and it has a whole lot of statutory requirements which must be complied with. So what I did was I went through a wad of rates assessment notices with my ruler and pencil, and when I get out my ruler and pencil, I'm going to get you. So what happened was, on basically a line-by-line accounting basis, that's what I did, and checked the different parts of the rates assessment notices against the statutory requirements, which is section 45(1)(a) to P. And so, for example, the rates, and this goes back from Auckland City Council days as well. So back in the days of Auckland City Council, I noted what was missing. But the big thing that I believe was inadequate was the information about rates activities. Where's the money being spent? But there were other things that were missing, like if they have a rates remission or rates postponement policy, they're supposed to put it on your rates assessment notice. If they have a penalty regime, they're supposed to tell you about that. They're supposed to tell you, as a citizen and ratepayer, you have the right to inspect the rating information database, and you can object to it. It doesn't say that on any of the rates assessments. So I mean, I've been through this with a fine-tooth comb, and at the Auckland Council governing body meeting that I attended today, I believe it's fair to say I got their undivided attention when I said that it is my intention to file in the High Court an application for a statutory declaration that the rates assessment notices are declared invalid because they don't comply with the statutory requirements. And of course, I'm not the only person that gets a rates assessment notice. So anyway, what's happening is that the legal paperwork, a draft has been prepared, and I'd like to thank Graham McCready for assistance with that. It's being fine-tuned. What I will have to do in a bit more detail is provide the evidence of the work that I've done on this line-by-line accounting basis. Back in 2008, Auckland City Council, again, was refusing to give the devilish detail about awarded contracts, and the then CEO of Auckland City Council, David Rankin, claimed the information was commercially sensitive. Well, what happened was in 2008, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven because I discovered the New South Wales Independent Commission Against Corruption, ICAC, and having a look on their website, I found that this New South Wales Independent Commission Against Corruption, their research had showed that the majority of their corruption complaints arose from local government, contracting and procurement. And the question they asked councils was, do you provide details of contracts issued so they're available for public scrutiny? I thought, that's what I'm saying. Yippee! So anyway, so what happened was I call it the 2-year-old tactic. Nah, you're not going to tell me where my rates are going. That's it. Well, I'm not paying you any. So I haven't paid rates since 2008. I have refused to pay rates twice as a mayoral candidate, and some of the great parliaments really like that. I was quite open about it. Well, I'm not paying because you're not telling us where the money's going. Under Section 17 of the Public Records Act 2005, it says that local authorities must create and maintain full and accurate records, which include those related to private contractors. And so the thing is, I mean, I don't know what channels I could have possibly gone down that I have not. I cold called the National Office of the Archives, who are the ones who administer the Public Records Act, and made a formal complaint back in 2011. And all I want is these statutory third-party public watchdogs to do their bloody job. And the reality is that they are not public watchdogs, they're corporate lapdogs. They're spectacularly useless, and in my considered opinion, the most useless of the lot are the Office of the Auditor General. And I mean, the Office of the Auditor General is supposed to audit this stuff. Well, I mean, as I said to the...
Excuse me, pardon me, the statute that you mentioned of the 2005, which you said mandated the local governments to keep accurate records.
Yeah, create and maintain.
Yes, create and maintain accurate records. But does it also say that these accurate records must be accessible to the public?
In terms of the public should be able to access them, but I mean, when you when you compare this other legislation, I mean, the thing is, this is what I've found, okay, that there's a lot of legislation that on the face of it's good stuff. You know, the Local Government Act, it talks about open, transparent and democratically accountable local government. But who the hell is enforcing this? You know, you've got the Public Records Act, you've got the Local Government Rating Act, Section 3 at the beginning. The purpose is we ratepayers are supposed to be able to understand our liabilities for our rates assessments and rates invoices. But if they don't tell you where the bloody money's going, well, how do we know what our liabilities are?
Make the payment?
Well,
I'm just wondering if they didn't skew the wording of that law to make it very, very difficult for a member of the public, such as yourself, to gain access to where the money was going.
well, in my considered opinion, it's on a number of fronts. How can you do line-by-line accounting if there aren't any lines because there don't appear to be any books? You know, how the hell does that work? Seriously, okay, sure. That's
if I were they, though, I would make damn certain that there was that in no part of that law, and it looks as if they did make damn certain that under no part explicitly gives access to the records that they're supposed to be keeping.
No, yeah,
explicit public access is what I'm asking.
The reality is that the National Office of the Archives, as I say, who implement and are supposed to enforce the Public Record Act, another one who are worse than useless. And what occurred to me, I had another light bulb moment, was that the Office of the Ombudsman are absolutely snowed under. They get all these requests for information. Well, in my view, if the Public Records Act was implemented in a full and proper way and the information was publicly available, that would help take a lot of work off the Ombudsman. So what occurred to me was that perhaps if the provisions of the Local Public Act were divided into two parts. One was the creation and maintenance of records, give that to the Ombudsman to look after. The storage and disposal of records, give that to the archives. And that way, it would really help the Office of the Ombudsman get that stuff done, because that would save them a lot of work in terms of trying to follow up all these screeds of requests they get for information that in a lot of cases should be available anyway. I've been taken to court twice and I've lost twice, but I still didn't pay anything. But what happened was in 2011 there were three things that sort of intertwined. They all happened at the same time. In October, November 2011, I stood against John Banks as an independent anti-corruption or public watchdog in Epsom. At the same time was Occupy Auckland, and I was very involved in the Occupy Auckland movement, Aotea Square. And what happened was Auckland Council, they basically picked on me on two fronts. On the one hand, they initiated court proceedings against me over my rates. But I also, out of the hundreds of Occupy Auckland protesters, two of us were individually singled out and named as on the legal paperwork. And what happened was, very interesting that when you look at the timelines, how things came together. So what happened was, for example, I'd been asking some hard questions about, again, where's the money going? I got an Official Information Act reply back in November. I can't remember the date. Was it? Yeah, date in November, basically saying that no, that there were 5,000 contracts to 12,500 suppliers, but they wouldn't be provided that information because it would be like too difficult to collate. It's like, well, you should have it anyway. So that was it. And very soon after that, they initiated proceedings against me over my rates. What happened was, when all hell broke loose the first working day after the election, and there was all these trespass notices, etc. All hell broke loose to try and forcibly evict Occupy Auckland protesters off Aotea Square. What happened was, like I say, I was one of the people singled out. So I ended up becoming absolutely swamped with legal paperwork. So what happened was that when they got an injunction, Auckland Council, to have us removed. Well, some of us, we deliberately breached the injunction. When I put my pup tent back on Aotea Square, I knew that I was facing contempt of court, and 8 of us were singled out for an order of committal for contempt of court, which would have been jail, and I was prepared to go to jail, and they ended up backing off that. But it was absolutely full on. So as a named respondent, what happened? A named defendant respondent. What ended up happening? I had a huge amount of work to do with the Occupy Auckland matters. And because I've had quite some experience with this narrow area of law regarding local government and trespass, I defended myself, but I worked very closely with Ron Mansfield, who worked pro bono as the lawyer for Occupy Auckland. What happened was that when we were forcibly evicted on the 26th of January 2012, our property was confiscated, and I had I'd taken the first step in opposing or defending myself in my rates case. I had my folder inside my pack, and when we were forcibly evicted and my lovely little tramping club tent was destroyed and my pack was taken, my property was confiscated, and I never got it back because they wanted us to sign something that would say we wouldn't come back to Aotea Square. There was no way of signing that. So basically they took my stuff. It's the same Auckland Council. So when there was a hearing on my rates case on the 24th of February 2012, I had no idea. I didn't turn up, and so I got an ex parte judgment, which was not made by a judge. It was made by a deputy registrar. It was based on legal submissions that had been made by an Auckland Council employee who was not a lawyer. And so in terms of an application to get that judgment set aside, very solid grounds to get the judgment set aside. Anyway, what happened subsequently to that was that on the very same day, I thought it was 6th of March 2013, where Justice Ellis in the High Court ruled in favour of Occupy Auckland. We won our appeal that very same day. Auckland Council had a behind closed doors meeting where they came up with this policy, first time ever, to enforce the rating sale of freehold homes. never been done before, okay? Because what they do, they can put charging orders against your property. They can secure their financial interest, so if you want to sell your house, well, you've got to pay your bills.
Is that only against freehold homes or mortgage?
What already happens is if you have a mortgage, what they can do is get the banks to take it out of your mortgage. I don't have a mortgage. So this was these pesky people who are refusing to pay, like myself. This was the way of neck stamping us. How the policy worked was there was only one person that could initiate rating sale proceedings, and that was the CEO. And the CEO, Stephen Town. Well, when you look at the timeline again, what happened in February, 20th of February this year, I applied for speaking rights at the Auckland Council CEO Review Committee meeting because I wanted to raise my concerns that CEO Stephen Town was a member of this unelected, hugely powerful private lobby group, which most people have never heard of, called the Committee for Auckland. And I wanted to know how come an apolitical public servant, the principal administrative officer for Auckland Council, was a member of a private sector lobby group whose member companies contracted to council and council-controlled organisations. In my view, that was a clear corrupt conflict of interest. Anyway, I applied for speaking rights. I provided 2 pieces of evidence to show that Stephen Town was a member of the Committee for Auckland. The committee chair, Chris Fletcher, denied me speaking rights, and her PA put it in writing, which was Chris Fletcher had received an assurance from Stephen Town that he wasn't a member of the Committee for Auckland. I said, well, he's lying, because here's 2 pieces of evidence that proves that he is. And I said, I'm coming to the meeting, and I hope common sense will prevail. Well, it didn't. I was still denied speaking rights. I stood on my hind legs, did a penny bright, and basically Christine Fletcher instructed after warning me for trespass, blah, blah, instructed 2 council officers to physically remove me from the town hall. Well, I mean, in my 60th year, I can do better than being physically dragged out of the town hall, you know. Those days should have stopped. I was not a happy chappy. I went round to Auckland Central Police and laid a complaint for assault against the council officers and against Christine Fletcher for being a party to the assault. I went to an internet cafe and printed off on that very same day the membership list of the Committee for Auckland, and there it was, Stephen Town, CEO, Auckland Council. So anyway, that was the 20th of February this year. Well, interestingly enough, what happened was very soon after that, Stephen Town initiated the proceedings to force the sale of my house. Can these events be linked? I most certainly think that they are. I think it's fair to say that I'm their number one pain in the neck. I'm an anti-corruption whistleblower. I have been effective, I believe, in helping to expose corrupt conflicts of interest. And so in what I believe is a draconian abuse of municipal power and authority, they sort of came down on me like a ton of bricks. Anyway, what happened was, so proceedings were filed on the 9th of April this year, and 6 months from that date, which was the 9th of October, that's when the Auckland Council could apply to sell my house in the High Court. Well, so what happened was, I mean, it had its moments. I mean, I'm not easily intimidated, but when your house is on the line, it's reasonably, you know, the stakes are getting up there. But what happened was, with all due credit, David Fisher, senior reporter from the Herald, came round and interviewed me on the 9th of October and did a very helpful article, which was published on the 10th of October. And on the 9th of October, what happened was, and I give full credit to my good friend and colleague Grace Hayden, ex-police prosecutor, private investigator who helped me with my court paperwork, and on the 9th of October we filed in the District Court an application to set aside that original judgment, and also an application to stay proceedings. And so the next day, Friday the 10th of October, all hell broke loose, because as soon as there was a big article in the Herald, next minute TV3 come round to interview me, then TV1 come round to interview with me. I had interviews with the 3 mainstream media radio stations. There was a clip on the Paul Henry show. And so what happened was, yes, there was a lot of, and it was quite positive publicity, basically, because little old me versus big nasty Auckland Council, because a lot of people aren't very keen on Auckland Council anyway. So that worked really well. So what happened was, Stephen Town, who's got 90 communication staff, put out this outrageous press release about 2:30 on that Friday afternoon saying Ms. Bright has made wild and inaccurate allegations, incredibly defamatory, because anyone that knows me and the work that I don't do wild and inaccurate. I do hard-hitting and factual. I think I've got a good reputation for getting my facts straight, and for him to make that statement is incredibly defamatory. So where we're at with that one, that what I did under Section 25 of the Defamation Act, I requested a public retraction and apology and $10,000, which is less than a week's wages for him on his $630,000. And what's happened is that this week he's received another letter from me saying, well, basically you've got till 5 o'clock tomorrow, which is Friday the 28th of November, to deal with my offer or see you in the High Court. And if it goes to the High Court, then I'll be potentially looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars. So anyway, all the crap I've been through with Auckland Council, Auckland City Council, the times I've been arrested, I've been sicked on by security guards, dragged. I've never gone for gold. But you start messing around with my good name, that is a different story.
Yep.
You might end up with a investment property, Penny.
Probably unlikely. But anyway, it's just you if money's the only thing they understand, well, so be it. But so funny because going into the town hall this morning, Stephen Town's coming from the opposite direction for us to both go up the steps to the town hall, and he couldn't even manage a forced phony smile, which is probably a little bit indicative of what's going on. So,
question with regard to you were saying about the subcontractors, and the companies, the big business. Has any of the big business been identified, and are they predominantly New Zealand businesses or overseas businesses?
Some of them are, they're definitely big business. Well, just have a look on the Committee for Auckland membership list, and also the New Zealand Council for Infrastructural Development. They're the ones to look at. And but what stuffed the council up is that, more by accident than design, I stumbled across Auckland Transport, and what they have on their website is most of the devilish detail that I have been requesting for the last 7 years. If you go to the Auckland Council website and you click on About Us, click, and then you scroll down to Procurement, click, then you can actually click on Awarded Contracts. And what they have is the unique contract number. They have a very brief description of the scope of the contract, the name of the contracting company, the value of the contract, whether it was signed and whether or not it was put out for tender. Now, the one thing I don't agree with Auckland Transport is that contracts worth under $50,000, they're left off. Well, sorry, every dollar, I want to see every dollar. But the reality is that really buggered up Auckland Council, because I said, well, hello, or any of your arguments about commercial sensitivity or the like, well, they vanish out the window, because if it's good enough for Auckland Transport, then it should be good enough for the rest of you. And at that point, that made it very difficult. And of course, when I'm also, me the tradie who's never been to university, going through the Local Government Act, Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, Local Government Rating Act, Public Records Act, I say, well, I don't know, it's my job to tell you your job, but here is the law that applies to you, councillors, and why aren't you following it? You swear an oath to the public to uphold the law. In fact, here's copies of the declarations that you swore, and I read it out to them. Hello. And anyway, so, but I mean, it all comes down to repercussions. But what should help set the world on fire is when I do file in the High Court this application for a declaratory judgment that the rates assessment notices are invalid. That's rather a biggie, because everyone's got to ask themselves, good God, I mean, like I say, there's only two bits of paper you send out to ratepayers, two of the most important pieces of paper, rates assessments, rates invoices. Why on earth did someone in your legal department not do what I'd done? Here's the statute, here's the rates assessment form, okay, that's A, that's B, oh my God, we're missing X, Y, Z. Who Why was that simple exercise, which took me less than 30 minutes, why was that not done? Because this paper did not fall out of the sky. Someone was delegated the task of drawing it up. Somebody signed it off. I don't know who that person was. Why on earth was it not double-checked also by elected councillors? And last point is, how on earth is it that if the Office of the Auditor General audits, what the hell are they auditing? Wouldn't you think that this would be a rather important little thing to double check that had been done in a proper way, because it hasn't been.
So just coming back to, have you noticed any of the outward monies, the big business being offshore companies?
Yes, I mean...
Australian-owned banks that are Committee for Auckland members, ANZ, ASB, Westpac, that kind of thing?
And the pinstripe mafia, price...
Fulton Hogan,
yeah,
Fletchers
Fulton
and
Hogan,
the big ones.
yes, and also pinstripe mafia, Deloitte's, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Yeah, but what I really strongly recommend is people do your own due diligence. Google committeeforauckland.co.nz, look on membership and look for yourself. But the interesting point is that about the day after I had potted Stephen Town as being listed on the Committee for Auckland membership list, suddenly, miraculously, all the names of the people vanished, and all you find on the Committee for Auckland membership list now is the names of the companies and the websites.
Which all have to pay $10,000 a year to remain members.
Well, what's interesting now, I mean, I made a big deal about that as well, and it seems that they're seeking to get more members, and rather than invitation only, it seems like you now can actually apply. Well, if you've got a lazy 10 grand or whatever. But I mean, honestly, the thing that really concerns me is that, I mean, I have done research, and what I found was it's like this infestation of corrupt corporate cockroaches who are everywhere and out of control, and how they've inveigled themselves into what's supposedly a public body. Because what I have found in the past is that members of the Committee for Auckland were, at least two, were on the boards of each of the council-controlled organisations, either as chair of the board, CEO of the board, or directors. Well, now it makes it a little bit more difficult to check that because the names have been removed. But what you've got, not only is Auckland Council a member company of the Committee for Auckland, but so are some of the council-controlled organisations. So where's the public service, private sector? The lines of demarcation used to be clear under the public service model. And another great light bulb moment was when I realised, oh my God, how do business people from the private sector transmogrify into competent public servants? They don't. They're from another galaxy.
Wasn't there a meeting you attended that was supposed to be for council but was held in a private boardroom because it was easier for the boardroom manager?
That was a CCO, one of the CCOs. I can't remember which one it was now. Might have been Auckland Council Investment. But that's the thing. That's a really big deal, this, because I mean that's what we're seeing, for example, with John Key with his Wall Street ways. I mean, he comes from a background where there are no laws, no regulations, no ethics, no morals, and he's brought his Wall Street ways with him in his Office of the Prime Minister, which is under such publicity right now. They are not covered by statute, regulation, protocol or process, and I have the black and white to back that up. So you've got 30 people in the Office of the Prime Minister, basically totally out of control. As Andrew Little says, there aren't any boundaries. You know, they make it up, they do as they please, and that is not okay, because I really agree with the preamble of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is words to the effect of, is if man is not to be compelled to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, human rights must be protected by the rule of law. And this is what we've got. We've got law, but it's not being followed and it's not being implemented. And it shouldn't have to be for ordinary citizens to take an extraordinary stand. But what I've learned in life, it's not actually the the breadth of the stand that makes a difference. Though you can have 100,000 people sign a petition, they use it to wipe their bum with, but it's the depth of the stand. Like Ike Finau made a famous stand for his right to freedom of expression, to have signs in his front lawn that expressed his political opinion. He was prepared to go to jail. We got a law change on the basis of one person refusing to buck on that one. There will be a lot of positive coming out of my stand, my refusal to pay my rates. There will be. And I think probably Stephen Town's probably thinking anytime soon, oh God, why did we start this? Anyway.
Who knows, he might even leave town.
Well, in actual fact, the fact that he actually lied to Christine Fletcher to say that, giving her assurance he wasn't a member of the Committee for Auckland when he was, not a good look, because Doug Mackay before him had been a member of the Committee for Auckland. And so my view that the Auckland Council is a super city for the 1%, I believe, is exactly the fact.
Christine Fletcher's not related to the Fletcher family of Fletcher Contracting, which are major contractors for Auckland City.
She used to be married to, I think it was Angus Fletcher.
Oh, okay.
Well, she's not now, but you know.
What a tangled web we weave. A tangled web indeed.
Well, the other interesting point is that, you put your mind to something, you study, and again, you realise, you have an oh my God moment. Well, another oh my God moment was this, that although on our rates assessment notices we get one piddling sentence, the fact is that council-controlled organisations are not local authorities. Therefore, they are not covered by the Local Government Rating Act. So therefore, you will not see one skerrick of information about all the millions upon millions of dollars that are going to Auckland council-controlled organisations. Where's the money going? Where's the money being spent? Nothing, because so my suggestion there, because I mean, having a quality assurance background, I'm happy to use my knowledge and experience to put forward positive and constructive suggestions. Which, number one, follow the bloody law. Number two is there's nothing under the Local Government Rating Act that says that councils can't add extra information. So my suggestion was that all of the Auckland Council-controlled organisations should have a link on the front page of their websites, awarded contracts. Click. And that's where you can easily find where your money's going. So if on the rates assessment notices there was a direct link to that information on the websites, that would be a hell of a lot better than we've got now. Of course, if you are a citizen who is not a ratepayer, if you're renting, you don't get one of these. I mean, your rent helps to pay the rates for your landlord, but you don't even get this piece of paper. So what we've got under the super city, super for the 1%, basically rates have skyrocketed, debt has skyrocketed, services have plummeted, and transparency has almost disappeared. There was bugger all mainstream media interest, unsurprisingly, basically corporate media. This was a corporate agenda, and so what happened was, without a binding vote of Auckland citizen and ratepayers through central government, the super city was railroaded through and was forced upon us. And part of the super city legislation involved the one big Auckland water company, Watercare, becoming that giant, being set up as a giant Metro Water, which is something the Water Pressure Group, which I'm a media spokesperson for, had been fighting for years. And again, no vote, no consultation as such. It was railroaded through because Parliament is sovereign, and that's what happened. Interesting that there, as I said, there seems to be. It's now percolated into this, it was all Rodney Hyde's fault. Well, let's get it right. The fact of the matter is that when it came to a vote in Parliament, with all due respect, the popular myth and legend is that somehow the super city's all Rodney Hyde's fault.
You said the initiative was from central government.
No, I said the initiative was from business.
From business.
Big business. They are the ones that put the pressure on. And what happened was, as someone who literally opposed the super city from day one after getting a media tip-off, myself and my friend Lisa Prager, another community public watchdog, we gate crashed a meeting at the Auckland Town Hall. And what happened was, it was the Auckland Mayoral Forum, which is not a creature of statute, it's just an arbitrary made-up group, and the four then city council mayors were trying to act against the ARC. The council-controlled organisational model was the organisational mechanism for this corporate coup, corrupt corporate coup that happened. That's the reality of it. And when Rodney Hyde, as the Minister of Local Government, appointed the now deceased Mark Ford to head the Auckland Transition Agency, there's gate crashed that meeting as well, two of us, and there's quite a famous photo of me with just a little cloth banner, which had taken me about 5 minutes to make, with a big black felt tip pen, standing behind Mark Ford, corrupt corporate coup, and another one saying a rates revolt will stop the super city. So when Rodney Hyde had a press conference, I went ballistic for about 6 minutes. It made national TV, but having a go, it's all about timing and focus. And so that was, making a huge fuss about the super city before it started, but there was very few other people even got it. The so-called activists, with all due respect, didn't really get it at the time. They might be in the ARC to get rid of the Auckland Regional Council in order to help push for the super city. And Lisa and I, we disrupted the meeting and basically said, you have no lawful right to do this, because at that stage, under the Local Government Act Section 24, there was a proper process for any amalgamation procedure, and it's supposed to be a binding poll of citizens to decide on whether or not they wanted amalgamation. And so they're trying to railroad it through. What happened was a petitioned Parliament. Peter Sharples presented the petition calling for there to be no rushing through of any amalgamation process until the public had been properly consulted. So I think, and what happened was the Greens and the Māori Party refused to support Labour in railroading it through. What then happened was it got slowed down for 18 months, where we went through this Royal Commission, where the Royal Commissioners were appointed by Labour, which included David Shand, ex-World Bank, ex-IMF, God knows what. But the reality was that the most important recommendation that came out of the Royal Commission was the council-controlled organisational model, whereby millions of dollars of rates would go to these council-controlled organisations, which had never been subject to any form of cost-benefit analysis. I've done work here no one else has done, but the reality was that council-controlled organisations, CCOs, had never been subject to any cost-benefit analysis by the Office of the Auditor-General, Department of Internal Affairs, by any of the 8 previous councils, and most alarming, Treasury. And I have got the letterheads and the letters of those organisations which will confirm that. So the concept that you would put 75% of the Auckland regional citizens and ratepayers' money into an untested model is pretty unbelievable, but that's exactly what happened.